What's up everybody, this is Master Ian Gamer, and let's talk about Anran's face.
What's wrong with your face?
So in case you've somehow missed out on the biggest topic to come out of Spotlight, fans have been quite upset about the actual depiction of the new hero Anran when it comes to her in-game model. Never mind the ongoing same face syndrome, which Overwatch has been suffering from for years, where new incoming heroes look to have just transplanted the face of a pre-existing hero. Anran has been a particularly notable case because we've actually seen a previous depiction of her in Woo Young's comics, cinematic, and story content, depicting a version of Anran that looks much different from what we ended up getting in-game. And so there's been a notable bit of backlash in the community over a character design that previously had been distinct and far more fitting her character, in my opinion, that has now been retconned upon her addition to look like just yet another cutesy Asian girl hero. Somehow, out of all the major announcements that have come out of Spotlight, this is the one that has gained more traction than anything, with even Fariha, Anran's own voice actress, acknowledging and commenting on it in her announcement post over being the hero's VA. And while I, for one, am certainly in the camp of preferring Anran's original design, in that I think it better fits the character herself in terms of her personality and archetype as a tough older sister character, I do think many people in the community are overestimating Blizzard's own willingness and ability to actually change the hero at this point. So today I wanted to try and take a more realistic approach of the situation at hand, evaluating Blizzard's options going forward, and what they're not only capable of doing, but also should do, and likely will do in light of this whole situation. So first and foremost, let's ask the question, can Blizzard fix Anran's face? Well, of course they can. They have control of the character's design. They could just task a development team with restructuring her face and pushing it out in a future update. Bada bing, bada boom, hero's fixed. However, a lot of people do seem to underestimate the actual effort that would go into this procedure. It's not as simple as just tasking a character modeler with spending an afternoon tweaking Anran's face and then pushing it out the next day. No, in a company as big as Blizzard, with a game as big as Overwatch, there is a lot more that goes into this type of thing. First and foremost, Blizzard is going to have at least one, likely more, internal meetings with various members of different teams to evaluate whether or not this is even a decision they want to go through with. Marketing has to evaluate how this might impact the character's overall appeal and ability to sell skins going forward. Modelers, artists, and animators on the team need to evaluate the time commitment it would take in order to go back and readdress the structure of her face. And management needs to compile all this information together in order to make a final decision. And this would mark the point at which Blizzard could even acknowledge that they're planning to update her. They'd probably put out a post saying, hey, we've heard your feedback, we're going to be implementing changes, only after all these meetings have taken place. Then comes the task of actually fixing Anran's face. At least one modeler would have to revisit the existing design for her and draft up various versions, likely aiming to make them more similar to that original version of Anran we saw in the cinematic and other story content, iterating on it over time until they get it looking more accurate and actually getting a good looking model. Then, once a finalized model is created, it gets sent over to the animation team in order to re-rig her entire face in order to make the animations for talking, looking around, and expressing actually match the design of the new face. During the same time, texture artists will need to make a new texture for her face, again, to fit the new design, meaning at this point, multiple people are actively in the process of working on this project. Then, once all the artistic components of the update are finished, they'll get pushed to the QA testers, who have to test the model in various settings to make sure there aren't any tremendous glitches or bugs that can happen with her newly updated face, or the model as a whole, and ensure that it's not going to somehow introduce some crazy unrelated bug in some entire other part of the game. Because yes, that can happen. And all the while this is happening, mind you, there are various checks and balances being made. Management has to step in every time there's another step taken to ensure that things are running smoothly, and then at the very end of this process, they can actually go ahead and push the update through in the probably next available upcoming patch, which will either be with the start of a new upcoming season or potentially a mid-season update during one of them. In and of itself, a very doable process of changing Anran's face. But what exactly is the cost of all this? Well, as I've already outlined, it will require multiple people spending multiple hours across a pretty lengthy period of time in order to execute it. And mind you, the people who'd be tasked with updating her face are the same people who otherwise already have work to do in the company, working on future character designs and models and props, and thus will need to find a way to squeeze that Anran redesign process into their existing workload, which, considering that we're going to be getting 5 more new heroes over the course of just this year alone, means they're probably pretty busy in the first place. And they can't justify dropping everything to just focus on fixing Anran here and now in order to get her done within a couple weeks or so. This process would likely take months to see through to completion, and amount to a tremendous additional workload for the Overwatch dev team, all in order to achieve what exactly? See, this is where we shift from whether or not Blizzard could update Anran's design to should they? Because not only would there be a substantial amount of time and effort they would take to actually update her design, but would the outcome even be worth it? Because so far I've only addressed the process that would go into updating Anran's base design. But we can't do that without addressing the knock-on effects, the biggest of which would be her skins. Every single skin that has already been produced will need to be updated in order to fit her new design. At the time being, we know of at least one new skin, which will be coming out in Season 1 for her, but considering that new skins for heroes are often developed a year ahead of whenever we actually see them in-game, along with the fact that Anran is likely going to be getting a lot of skins going forward, Blizzard could internally have as many as a dozen or more skins for Anran currently that are at least as far in the development pipeline to where they've already begun 3D modeling them. And any skin that has so far hit that point or past it will now need to be gone back and fixed, which will again take a lot of time and a lot of effort. And if that in and of itself wasn't an issue, after Blizzard comes to the decision to change Anran's design, they won't want to release any skins for her up until that new design is released. If they did, they would then have to retroactively update skins they've already published and sold to fit the new design of the hero. And what happens if somebody spent actual money on buying an Anran skin only for it to get updated later down the line in a way that maybe they don't like anymore? Now we're hitting a massive legal issue where Blizzard is going to be hit with potentially a number of refund requests over this change if they go through with selling skins for her before they enact the redesign. In essence, this puts Blizzard in the position where they can't sell skins for the new cutesy hero for possibly the first several months of her addition in the game. Never mind the additional marketing material that features Anran with her current in-game design. That will all need to be retroactively changed as well, which now balloons to a massive amount of time and effort across multiple teams at Blizzard, all of which will in the short term negatively impact Blizzard's revenue potential simply over enacting this one design change. This isn't Blizzard retroactively changing a single element of a single hero skin due to it being culturally insensitive or has a component that's just a little too sus for Blizzard to be comfortable with. This is the face of one of the new big heroes joining Overwatch, and while it would have been great if they'd gotten it right in the first place, changing it now would be a huge undertaking. Believe me when I say there is a lot more that would have to go into this than just changing the model of Anran's face. It would be a substantial undertaking for the dev team, all during a very critical time immediately following the biggest content release in Overwatch history and preceding a year of major ongoing content releases. Blizzard's plate is almost certainly already full, and would it be worth it for them to tack all of this on top of whatever workload they're currently tackling simply because of the outcry in the community? Well, let's evaluate that part specifically. At the time being, it is certainly the most talked about thing with regards to Spotlight and all the new content coming in Season 1. But how long will that last? Will people still be talking about this a week from now? a month from now, a year from now? Will people just get used to the way Anran looks in game and chalk it up to being another, oh, Blizzard type thing where all characters in the game look the same? And even if people do continue to bring it up for a long period of time, how big of an issue is that really for Blizzard? After all, how many years now have people been time and time again complaining about the number of skins heroes like Kiriko and Mercy get every single season, and yet what continues to happen? Kiriko and Mercy get new skins every single season. And there's a specific reason for them to do that, which is money. Blizzard makes a lot of money off of selling Kiriko and Mercy skins, and believe it or not, but I'd wager the change from this version of Anran's design to the one we have in game was likely also a very deliberate decision made in order to make money. Now, unlike Kiriko and Mercy, Anran has yet to prove definitively that she will be a cash cow of their same caliber, but it's extremely likely that Blizzard made this change in the first place in order to attempt to make her another cash cow, which would actually be another reason for Blizzard to not give in to the backlash and not update her design. Not only would it be an immense additional amount of effort for the dev team, but it also might compromise her status as a cash cow. Or at the very least, it's extremely likely that the Blizzard developers and higher-ups would see it as being a risk of that, which would be enough reason in and of itself for them to not change her design. Because amidst all the criticism in the community over Anran's design, there has been a quieter but still notable voice of players who actually prefer her in-game design, especially from people who never read or saw the original story content and thus have no predisposed expectation or attachment to that version of the character. All they see is a cute Asian girl character being added to the game, and surprise, surprise, that is very appealing to a lot of people. It may not be the loudest voice in the Overwatch community at the moment, but it's certainly still a voice. And the last thing Blizzard would want to do is invest all the time and effort into redesigning Anran's design, only to then piss off an even bigger number of people who otherwise liked how she already looked in game. All this to say, as disappointing as it was to see Anran's original, cool, older sister design get boiled down to that of yet another generic, unoriginal, cutesy cash cow, I frankly don't know if it's worth it for Blizzard to even go back and try to change her at this point. The damage has been done, the players have expressed their grievance, and especially when you consider the increased rate of hero releases it looks like we're going to be getting going forward for Overwatch, it probably makes more sense for Blizzard to just write Anran off as a fluke and a misstep, and then just go on to the next. So far, it looks like we're already going to be getting at least 2 other Asian female heroes before the end of the year, so I wouldn't be surprised if Blizzard just took this feedback into consideration and applied it to potential new heroes going forward, rather than wasting any time and effort and potential further mishap with redesigning Anran. However, we will have to wait and see. I'm curious to see if Blizzard makes a public statement about this at any point, and what it is exactly they say in the case that they do. And also, I feel like I should mention, just because I know if I don't, everybody's going to bring it up in the comments, there was a clip from one of Warren, the Overwatch streamer's streams, where he'd evidently heard from Overwatch developers that they're aware of people's concern over Anran's design. I'll just play a clip of it real quickly here.
And I'll tell you what they said. They literally said that it's on their radar, 1, and 2, I don't know if this is leaking. They said 1, it's on their radar, and 2, it's not as simple as being able to fix it before the release of the season.
I'm just gonna say this by no means guarantees that Blizzard is going to update Anran's design. It simply means that Blizzard is aware of the situation, which of course they are, how could they not be? And even if they're looking into options for potentially remedying it, that doesn't guarantee that the option they go with will be to update her design. So frankly, I'm curious to hear your all's thoughts on this. I know obviously a lot of people really want to have her design updated, and frankly, I do wish that we had gotten a different version of her, but at this point, I don't know if it's worth it from Blizzard's perspective to actually take the steps necessary in order to change her. And at the end of the day, she's still a cute hero added to Overwatch. I can't help but feel in the long run, a lot of players are going to be perfectly fine with how she looks, regardless of what's going on now. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you hope Blizzard goes through with updating her design, making her look more like the original? Or maybe you actually prefer her current cutesier design and hope that Blizzard doesn't change it because you actually prefer the way she looks now. Either way, I'd love to hear your thoughts, and as always, be sure to subscribe, hit up that bell icon, follow me on X, and join my Discord server to hang out and never miss any future Overwatch 2 news streams and other content. Special thanks to my YouTube channel members who help make these videos possible, and if you'd like to join them to earn some cool rewards, then just hit that join button down below. Otherwise, this is Master Ian Gamer signing off, and until next time, have a great day.